Launch control, this is Houston. We are go for launch.
Hold on to your lug nuts. It's time for an overhaul.
Turn it up, son.
I'm your huckleberry.
I don't give jobs, I hire men. You won't give me anything, and I won't give you anything.
Collision, sir.
Whoa, relax. We're not even moving.
There's no crying in baseball.
We are News to Mexico. It's Tuesday, November 22nd, 2011. Jim Spence is here on Michael Swickard website, newsnm.com. Jerry Harden is our producer-director. Remember, if you got small kids at home, read to them 20 minutes each and every day. They're the ones going to put you in the nursing home. You want them to be able to read the contract. Today is John F. Kennedy Day. It was on this date in 1963. He was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, so all quotes are from him. This is a John Kennedy quote. Mothers all want their sons to grow up and be president, but they don't want them to become politicians in the process. How's that?
Yeah, that's pretty tough order there.
It is. On the Newsmaker line, we have Marita Noon. Energy makes America great. Marita, tell us a little bit about the fundraising bonanza that the president has unleashed because he's withholding his approval of a pipeline.
So, do you guys like that piece?
You know what? I really liked it, and I hadn't thought about it from your angle, so maybe we'll set it up real quick. The Keystone XL pipeline, which is a proposal that TransCanada had on the table for a long time, had been vetted environmentally, all set to go. 20,000 jobs, untold amounts of economic development, high-paying jobs with benefits, and the president nixed it. What were the upsides for the president nixing this project, or at least delaying it? Of course, you can kill things by delaying them.
Yes, and the environmentalists, I did a lot of research to write this particular piece that we're addressing, my piece that I believe you have on your website.
We do.
And that is on townhall.com and various other websites as well. It's my column for this week, and I thought it brought out some really interesting points that were not being addressed elsewhere, because I always feel like, if everybody else is saying something, I don't need to say it. So I try to find something that's not being addressed or a fresh angle. And with the XL pipeline, obviously, as is addressed in the news, the president truly was in a tough place because two of his core constituencies, environmentalists and the unions, were on opposite sides of this issue. The environmentalists hated the pipeline because it increases, or in their perspective, it increases reliance on petroleum products, because the environmentalists really need to perpetuate the message that we have an energy shortage and therefore we must rely on wind and solar. And that is just totally not true at all, but that's part of what they try to perpetuate in order to make their post-carbon society a reality, their dream of a post-carbon society a reality. On the flip side, the unions desperately need jobs, as does all of America. And so the unions really wanted this pipeline to go through because a lot of the jobs, the welding, the pipe fitting, a lot of the construction, a lot of the jobs created through this pipeline would have been union. So that put the president in a real quandary as to, okay, which side do I appease? Because there was absolutely no way to make both sides happy. So what did he do? He punted, which is typical of this president, to punt something down the road so he can sort of not make a decision and try to keep everybody happy at the same time. And so he punted and said, well, we don't like where this pipeline goes because it's an environmentally questionable, sensitive area. And so he punted the decision till after the 2012 election. But in doing so, the unique thing about this that I've addressed, that I've not heard anyone else address, is that it's kind of, you picture the cartoon of a person with the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder, and they're both kind of whispering in the ear. That's what I picture on this, with the environmentalists on one ear and the unions in the other. However, by punting it until after the election, both constituencies are going to be over-contributing to the president's $1 billion campaign goal to try to buy their particular viewpoint. As we know, the president's not immune to having people buy influence.
So Marita, then in that sense, what you've got is you've got the best of all worlds for Obama. He gets money from both sides, and he's doing the Nancy Pelosi, you have to elect me to see what I'm going to do.
Exactly. That's what he's going to do. And so each side will be, trying to buy that influence that we know that he's prone to. And it gives him an opportunity to raise a whole lot more money by delaying the pipeline, where if he made a decision one way or the other and angered one side or the other,
no money.
That side would quit donating.
Well, and I don't look at it like he's got the angel on one side and the devil on the other side. To me, it looks like he's got two dairy cows and he wants to milk them both.
Well, Marita Noon, if you're just joining us, Marita Noon, EnergyMakesAmericaGreat.com is her website.
.org.
Oh, it's org?
Yes.
Org, excuse me.
I know, you're stuck.
He only makes that mistake once a week, though.
Only once a week. It reminds me, in New Mexico, there are some gold operations, and there was a gold operation near Carrizozo at White Oaks. And a lot of people came in. They threw money around, tipped good in the restaurants and stuff. And I said that I would write a story the first time they shipped a bag of gold. And they never did. And finally, one of them confessed to me over a drink in a bar. He said, "Don't mess up a good gold mine by digging in it." What we do is we get shares in these companies, and we go out to Las Vegas, Nevada, where everybody is so smart they just can't believe it, and we sell them shares in gold mines, and then we bankrupt those companies and start new companies and sell more, and that the money is all in the fundraising. It isn't actually in gold. Once you dig in a mine, then you know how much gold you got, how much money there is. Before, it's gold. So, see, Obama took a page out of that playbook.
I could be, and it's interesting you mentioned Nevada and the gold mining, because a couple of weeks ago I wrote a piece on actual jobs that you can go and get right now in Nevada in the gold mining industry, that one of the miners, the gold mine companies in Nevada, has got something like 500 jobs available. And now they're not in Las Vegas, where they've been hit so hard economically. They're in the other more rural areas of Nevada, but there are jobs available in mining, and there could have been jobs available in this pipeline situation. Had the president really... See, I contend the president doesn't really want to create jobs.
No.
Because that would kind of mess up the need for government. And his viewpoint is that the government needs to be the savior. And this pipeline project, was a private money project, would not have taken 1 penny of taxpayer money, and that goes against the president's plan, as does lowering the price of gasoline, because this pipeline would have lowered the price of gasoline by providing more supplies, more resources. And so there's myriad reasons why this whole pipeline idea, the Keystone pipeline, well, historically, every cross-border pipeline ever proposed before that has met all the things it's supposed to meet has gone through. And so there's good reason to think this one would go through, but when you really look at it from the president's mode of operation and his ideology, there's no way this pipeline was going to go through.
I think I was reading in a really good book called Energy Freedom. I can't remember who wrote that book.
Oh, yeah, Energy Freedom, good book.
That was your book, Marita. Okay.
It was my book, Jim. Did you read it? Because you weren't here with us last week.
I have not quite finished it, but I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. But I'm reminded that part of this process here is to stall and delay. In other words, what you can do, they can actually act like they're doing more studies and being very, very environmentally sensitive. But this particular project already had the good housekeeping seal on it. I'm reading in your column, and in quotations you have the environmental impact statement on the pipeline, quote, reaffirm the environmental integrity of the project, end of quote. So The bottom line is this is just gamesmanship. It's just amazing to me that the president can run around the country wanting us to borrow another $400 or $500 billion for another stimulus plan when there's not a nickel of government money involved in this project and about 20,000 shovel-ready jobs already.
Yes, and TransCanada, their report indicates about 18,000 jobs that are what they would call spin-off jobs, which are, in the communities where the construction would be, where the pipeline is. This would be the restaurants. This would be housing. This would be dry cleaning. All those things. Well, maybe the construction workers don't have a lot of dry cleaning, but
Really now?
They have a lot of laundry bills, though. So, Marita, the funny thing about this, you see publications like Business Week, Bloomberg, which is basically just a cover for the president and his agenda. They had a journalist writing and questioning the economic viability of this project. Isn't that the beauty of private enterprise, though? It's TransCanada that takes the risk. It's not Solyndra, where if everybody misjudges the taxpayers, it blows up on the taxpayers. So if it's not an economically viable project, it's TransCanada that loses their capital. Isn't that the beauty of these types of projects?
Exactly, and where does TransCanada get their capital? They get their capital from investors who would not invest if the project wasn't financially viable, which was, of course, the situation with Solyndra. They couldn't get investors, so they got the venture capitalists out of Washington, D.C., who were more willing to take a bad risk. So,
who were also campaign contribution bundlers for this president. Oh, what a coincidence.
Funny thing about that.
Yeah.
EnergyMakesAmericaGreat.org. Marita Noon. We're going to have more with Marita when we come back. We are News New Mexico. Okay, we're talking with Marita Noon.
That was Joe Biden. Don't kid
that's
people.
Joe Biden,
Come
yes.
on.
EnergyMakesAmericaGreat.org. Marita, what are you working on coming up?
Well, I'm actually maybe working on a piece that someone gave me some data for on New Mexico, where a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, did some research and took the solar project that PNM has just recently unveiled with a lot of fanfare, and how many kilowatts of electricity that piece produces, and how much land it occupies, and has simply done the basic math to extrapolate out, okay, if we were going to shut down the coal fuel power plants up in the Four Corners area, how much land would we take? How many wind turbines would we have to put up?
You'd take all the land in New Mexico. That's what it would take. All the land. It would
take a lot, and I'm not going to tell you how much because that might be next week's column.
All right. I think it should be next week's column because I've been saying that the density of generation is the issue here.
Yes, and that is the issue. But, before we run out of time, I want to point out a key issue out of my little column from this week. And two things I want to point out. And one is that back in September, President Obama dialed back on the ozone regulations, which are against the coal-fueled power plants. And you've heard me talk about that. I've written a column on it back in September. You can find it on townhall.com. And but the reason President Obama dialed back on those ozone regulations is not because he thought it was a great idea. He dialed back on those ozone regulations because of public pressure. Likewise, this pipeline became an issue because the environmental side, the environmentalists, including my friends at the Center for Biological Diversity, they made this an issue. They protested. They were at the White House. They made a lot of noise. They exerted pressure. So the message for the issue to take away here is that public pressure works. And so for everybody who's listening out there, whatever your issue may be, I mean, obviously my issue is energy, and I hope that everybody listening would agree with my issues. Call the president and say, pass this pipeline. But, whatever your issue is, realize we as the people, we are not powerless. And, Jim, you mentioned my book, Energy Freedom, and that's the point of that last chapter of that book, is to get people involved in helping to shape policy in this country. For too long, we've sat on our hands, and we really need to get involved and contact our elected officials, whether they be county, city, state, federal, but have their phone numbers in your cell phone, have their emails in your email list, and, just be on their case constantly. In fact, a separate piece I'm kind of working on is that we've had in the northern part of New Mexico a really difficult time getting an appointment to meet with one of the legislators, either of them, any of them. So I encourage people, call them, bug them, try to get in to see them, and get your voice heard.